WGHTradio.com. This is North Jersey 1500 WGHT.
The WGHT Morning Show with Jimm Howes and Greta Latona.
Live and local 837. How beautiful is that? Over 50 years of great music. Jimm Howes and Greta Latona enjoying today on the morning show Lois Harris Powell. It is a privilege to be speaking to someone in an era of just a great genre of music that we've enjoyed throughout our lives. I'm a member of the Chantels, performing at the IZOD Center in May. She's here to join us. Good morning. Thank you.
Good morning to you, too.
Hey, Ms. Harris Powell, can Greta and I call you Lois?
Absolutely.
Thanks, Lois. Where are you now? Where are you right now sitting? Where are you?
I am sitting in my den/office in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware.
Absolutely great. Near the beach? Are you near the beach?
About 3 miles.
Great. We're excited to talk to you because Greta and I have had the privilege over the past almost 8 years talking to a lot of people who were huge pop stars in the 60s and 70s and 50s. Mm-hmm. But you, my friend, are somebody that is phenomenal. A lot of people do not realize how trend-setting the Chantels are and how many doors you opened in the doo-wop era for girl groups and what your accomplishments have been over the years, second to none. And yet you're still working and you're still out there. You're grinding it out. How many times a month do you go out and sing and do your act?
Oh, sometimes twice a month. Sometimes it's 3. This month it's 3 times. And next month I think twice, and on and on and on and on through October. Actually, we're booked in. We have a date in 2015.
Wow!
Amazing.
So we just, we never know.
Well, we were reading your bio. I did a show with you guys once years ago in Hackensack, and you were backstage hanging out by the buffet before you guys had your dresses on and you were all made up for the show. And everybody, even Freddie Cannon, was saying, who are these ladies over here? Who are they? I don't know. And like 20 minutes later, you came out in your beautiful gowns and your doos and the makeup on. And everybody goes, oh, they were the Chantels. I don't know if you remember. It was a concert for the blind. You guys were doing it over in Hackensack. And I was with a different radio station, and people were saying, who are these ladies? Are they part of the show? Because Greta wants to ask you. I wonder how
long does it take you to get dressed for something like that?
Not very long.
You had a system, huh?
On stage, you guys are a knockout.
Oh, thank you so much. An
absolute knockout with the gowns, and you don't let the audience down. You have the look, you have the sound, and you still look young. You're unbelievable. But can you tell to most people, the Chantels, hit records, Look in My Eyes, and Maybe. And by the way, Maybe, our very good friend and radio station chief engineer says that the chords in the opening of Maybe, one of the most recognizable chord ever in radio and music history. You know the chord, dun 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 dun. You know right away. That's the hook. Can you tell us how you were discovered? It's a very interesting story.
Well, this is my version, and it matches Richard Barrett's version, and he's the one who was our manager and created the environment for us to rehearse and eventually record.
He believed in you.
He did. We were on our way downtown in New York City to see a show that was, I think, at the State Theater. I'm not positive. And we were just meandering around, and we were dressed alike, and there was a guy who saw us and said, "Oh, are you sisters?" And we said, "No, we sing." And he said, "Well, I have a studio upstairs. It might have been the Brill Building." And we went up with him, and he started to tinker on the piano. And I happened to look out the window, and I saw three of the Valentines, which was Richard Barrett, and then Ronnie, I can't remember Ronnie's last name, and David, who was, they were two singers in the group. And so we called down to them, and they said, "Come down." We told the guy upstairs that we had to leave. And we went down, and we started to talk to the Valentines. And Richard said, "Well, you know, why are you dressed alike?" And we said, "Because we sing." He said, "Well, sing something." And we sang something. And he said, "You sound, I could probably do something with you." And we said, "Yeah, right." And he said, "Well, I didn't lie to Frankie Lyman." And we knew he discovered Frankie.
Right.
And then he took phone numbers, and it seemed like months, but it was actually a couple of weeks, and he called Arlene Smith's house and spoke to her mother and father and said that he wanted to set up a meeting, and that's what we did. And he said he would work with us, and he would take us around he had somebody in mind, and he would take us around when he thought we were ready, and that's what he did. And the person was George Goldner from, at the time, Gone Records. And he created the End label to record us, and then eventually the Isley Brothers, Anthony and the Imperials, the Flamingos, et cetera, et cetera.
Those are some big names.
That's how
names.
that got started.
Lois, how did your parents feel about that? You were
My mother was not
kid,
impressed.
right? You were a kid.
I was 16. I guess Renee was about 12.
Right.
Sonia was about 13. And my mother was not impressed at all. I grew up on classical music. We played classical music. I took piano lessons, and so she was not impressed at all.
Lois, did you have to back in those days? Did they have working papers, or did your mom follow you around and watch?
No, we had one of the parents. And then eventually Richard hired someone to be a chaperone for us.
Right.
Because our mothers were, in fact, very concerned about that. And at the time we met, there wasn't even a thought that we were going to be going on the road.
Sure.
So it was. And by the time we recorded, I was in my senior year in high school. I was 17. And the nuns wouldn't let me out of class out of the school, actually. The girls all went to professional children's school once they started traveling. And the nuns and my mother both agreed that I should not leave. And I had to stay in and graduate. So that's what happened. And so I only did local shows with the girls until I graduated.
Now, we are with Lois Harris Powell from the Chantels. And now that you mentioned the nuns, can you let our listeners know how the name or where the name the Chantels came from?
It was a combination of we played basketball. Well, I didn't play. Sonia and Renee played, and I think Arlene. And one of the games was at a school called St. Francis de Chantal, and actually St. Jane Francis de Chantal. So Jackie and Sonia and I think maybe Renee were at one of their homes, and they were all trying to figure out a name for the group. And they called me and said, "What could we do with that?" And I said, "Well, chanteuse in French is singer, and chanter is to sing. So we said, what about the Chantels?" But we pronounced it Chantels.
Right.
And so that was how it was born.
It is amazing that you went to St. Anthony's, but you named yourself almost after a different school, a competition school.
Yeah.
See, you guys.
Because there was nothing. What's catchy in St. Anthony of Padua? There wasn't much we could do with that.
No, you're right. You're right.
But Chantel sounded very. It just sounded very exotic to us.
So your mom signed your record contract?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, amazing. Where were you when you first heard your song on the radio. Were you in the Bronx? Were you in New York? Were you in school?
Yeah, I was at home, and I heard it.
Whose radio show?
I'm sorry?
Whose radio show or what radio station? Do you remember?
I cannot remember. I just remember hearing it, and I told my mother, "This is our record." And she wasn't impressed.
Really?
Really?
Well, it wasn't her music, and she wasn't used to that. And the nuns certainly weren't helpful because they called it skip and jump. They couldn't even say rock and roll. Our choir director called it skip and jump.
Well,
you sing that skip and jump music.
It's funny because Greta, my morning show co-host, went to a Catholic college, and every time you speak about the nuns, she's had so many similar experiences, the same as you, It's amazing. So you were home when you heard your record for the first time.
Yes.
Don't you wish you were with a bunch of friends? How about the next day at school? Or the kids at school?
I don't remember telling the girls until we did our first show, I think. And then I said, "Oh, I have a show this weekend." And so I think that's what started it. But eventually they all found out, and they interviewed me in the news, the school newspaper. The month that I was graduating, they interviewed me.
What an amazing story. And then when did the live tours begin? When did you start touring? Did you go on the buses with the other bands?
Yep.
And when did all this start? When did all this start? And who did your first live tour who were you with on your first live tour?
The first live tour I actually was not on, and because I was in school.
You're just a baby.
But the girls went, and I cannot remember whether it was Murray the K show or if it was an Alan Freed tour. I have a lot of the books from programs from those shows because I kind of, elected myself the archivist. So I have a lot of stuff and a lot of photos from that time. So I don't remember who was on it, but eventually when I started touring, we toured with the likes of, Paul Anka and Jerry Butler and the Impressions and the Cadillacs and the Coasters and Laverne Baker.
Hey, was Jerry Butler really the ultimate ladies' man? Was he a smooth talker and, was the image that he has? Was he like that in real life, the ultimate gentleman, smooth talking ladies guy?
You know what? We couldn't tell you that because we were always pretty much well guarded in our dressing room. We were not allowed out. We couldn't socialize with anybody because we were so young.
Yeah.
And so Richard was he was like a guard dog. He was ferocious when it came to anyone coming near our door, and he would always, if he wasn't there, he would have somebody stand there and make sure that nobody came in our room. We weren't allowed out until it was time for us to go down and get on stage. And occasionally, if it was a group we really wanted to see, we would beg Richard to let us go down and see them from the wings.
Really?
Yep.
Now, over the years, you've been touring almost constantly for 40, 45 years. And over the years, you've played in many, many famous places. Off the top of your head, name some of the places that would make other musicians jealous that you've had the honor of playing in. Did you ever play Carnegie Hall, the Apollo?
Oh, the Apollo, hundreds. It felt like hundreds of times, but many, 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 many times. The last time we sang at the Apollo was, I think, 2002 or 3.
Yeah.
But we did the Royal Theater in Baltimore. We did the Howard Theater in D.C. We did actually the Paradise Theater in the Bronx. Had a show that we did, and that was a beautiful theater. And let's see where else. Oh, geez, just so many.
Did you do Radio City Music Hall?
We did Radio City Music Hall. We did the There's another theater down in that area.
Didn't you play or sing in front of 125,000 Girl Scouts once?
Yes, we did. We did for their 90th anniversary on the Great Mall, and we did their 95th anniversary. We sang in front of all those people, and that was interesting because there were so many people. Odetta, there were a lot of contemporary singers, young singers, and then there was us old-timers, and the kids seemed to enjoy all of it.
Lois, the harmonies in the Chantels songs, the harmonies, they sound very intricate, and Arlene Smith's voice sticks out, and she has a beautiful singing voice, but the harmonies that you guys do, how did you learn how to do that?
I don't know. It was kind of innate.
Was it natural?
Because we were in the choir, as I said, at St. Anthony's.
Right.
And Sister Richard Marie, who was the choir director, was very, very, what can I say? She was almost a perfectionist in how we sounded as a choir. And as a result of that, we won many, many awards and trophies from competitions. And I guess that kind of was embedded in us. And later on, and how we got started was we started jazzing around the religious stuff. And then eventually, we had seen, my cousin was in a guy group, and the girls knew some other people in guy groups. And we used to just kind of hang around and listen to them. And then we would try to do our own take on what we heard from them and make it better. Or so we thought. So that's kind of, we used to play with sound, and that's how we developed our unique sound.
Unique it is. Before you, the only other band that I could think of off the top of my head, an all-girl group, was maybe the Bobettes, because we're going back to 56 and 57.
Mm-hmm.
So you showed the world that it's possible to be a successful group, all girls, which was...
Well, there was another group before the Bobettes, the Hearts.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, there was the Hearts, and then there was another group, and I can't remember the name of that group. And I mentioned them because when we would sneak and listen to any station that would play the music of the Hearts and what was rhythm and blues at that time.
That's right.
And some of the early groups, like the Spaniels and that. My older cousins would listen to that music, and so we would listen, and that's how we found out about the girl groups, because all we heard was guy groups, and didn't even know anything about any girl groups, and we heard the Hearts as a result.
The business has been very good to you over the years, and there's a question that I want to ask you, because I'm very curious as a DJ. And the question is about a release called We Are the Chantels, where you guys were on the picture sleeve.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was repackaged with a picture of two teenagers that didn't look like you guys.
Right, and I'm looking at that album right now. I have it in a shadow box.
Now, that's a very big collector's item for record collectors, and you were doing a successful music in what was really a situation where R&B at that time was considered black music.
Right.
And you were talking around it a second ago, which I admire you for doing so. But you were a victim of the times too, because when they release an album with your pictures on it, and then boom, they pull it back and they re-release the same album with two white teenagers on the cover because they're afraid, the parents won't let them listen to the music. That was quite a time in music. What do you?
And what's so interesting about that, because that was the cover that was sold down south.
Right.
And the interesting thing is that on the back of his album, there are pictures of black groups, guy groups.
Uh-huh.
So I thought it was very amusing that, it was sad, but I thought it was so, I said, you don't want to show us on the cover, but if you turn the thing in the back, you see pictures of two black groups.
Exactly.
I can't remember. And I just, it was just...
Sometimes the tail wags the dog, and the dog doesn't wag the tail, you know?
You couldn't figure out what was the sense of all that, really.
Well, Lois Harris Powell from the Chantels, we're up against the clock here, and I swear I could talk to you for an hour because of your accomplishments and the awards that you've been given over the years. Mm-hmm. And you're in our prayers for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because to us, you are Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And what you still do amazes us, because you're out there, you're on stage, it's like a time machine, what you do. And you hold the crowd in the palm of your hand, and you've been doing this for decades. And it's an honor to have you on the show, and we can't wait to see you in the Richard Nader doo-wop reunion, where it's going to be a time where you're going to see all of your old friends that you've known over the decades. It's going to be like a homecoming.
Yes, and I'm looking forward to doing that. It's just a wonderful thing, and I know you have a time limit, but I just want to thank you so much for letting me tell you part of our story, and I just really appreciate it so much talking to you.
You're welcome back on the show anytime, because you, my friend, are the music. You are the product that we present here on the radio station, and it's a privilege to have you on the show.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And good luck to you and the ladies, and you're in our prayers. Much success and good health to you, and we'll see you on stage at the end of the month.
Thank you. Okay, looking forward to it.
All right, at the IZOD Center.
Yep.
WGHT Radio, thank you so much. Lois Harris Powell on WGHT.